Niajae Wallace is a serial entrepreneur who is passionate about helping people transform their lives. With 19 years of experience in fitness and wellness, she is now helping people improve their mental, emotional, and physical well being with sound therapy. Niajae helps people to identify the emotional root cause of their pain and physical ailments and reduce stress and anxiety holistically. She works with clients at Bliss Bar Meditation Studio and also certifies other practitioners in her modality, Somatic Sound Therapy. Niajae empowers people with the tools to feel whole, grounded, and blissful.
Mhm.
Welcome, Niajae Wallace, to the show. I'm super happy to reconnect with you after having you on a previous podcast with Women Your Mother Warned You About, and going all the way back to when we met in an aerial arts workshop.
Mhm.
I was thinking about you this morning. I think that the dog's name was Handsome.
Oh, yes, handsome, my baby.
Niajae had Handsome at that circus training, and that was the most well-behaved dog. Like no one even knew that there was a dog in the room for like half of the day
Yeah.
until Handsome came out to visit. So
Yeah, he was the most adorable, sweetest Yorkie, and I always had him in my purse, and so he was very used to being out and about with me. I took him with me everywhere. He used to come to the studio with me, so he was used to that environment. So, yeah.
that was so many years ago. That was like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe.
It was a very long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the first place that Niajae and I connected when we were both doing training for aerial arts, and both of us share a love for aerial fabric. And
Hmm.
I haven't been on the silks in a while. I kind of miss that. But
Mm.
Niajae is a very striking person. If you're not watching this on YouTube, she always has had this gorgeous purple hair going on. As long as I've known you, it's been consistently purple. Ever had
Yeah.
any thoughts of changing colors, or are you always happy with
Nope.
purple? Purple. Can you tell us why purple is your thing?
So, purple's the color of royalty. It's also one of the chakra colors. I just really resonate with the color. But originally, when I was transitioning from selling my aerial studio to doing like business coaching, I always wanted to keep it because I feel like I'm an artist first. And I feel like if I go back to my natural hair color and I get caught up in business and that very masculine energy, I'll lose the creative part of me. So it's my reminder every day when I look in the mirror, you're an artist first.
I love that. And it's so crucial and important to know exactly who you are to keep you
Mhm.
grounded in this tumultuous, exciting, beautiful, crazy world that we live in. It's so
Mhm.
easy to be nudged, dragged, shoved off your course of who
Mhm.
you truly are because of all of the noise and media. So that I love that you keep that about you. And it's so
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Like it's absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
So tell me about, just tell me a little bit about your transition from when I first met you in the aerial fabric that you mentioned just now, that you had an aerial studio and then you shifted into business, and now you are fully in the healing space. And we'll get
Mhm.
to that part of things.
Yeah, it has been such an interesting journey. So, when I met you, I had a studio in Columbia, South Carolina, because we were in Charlotte, right? So, I drove to Charlotte for the training and I loved my studio. I love teaching aerials. I think that teaching aerials was something that really got me into self development. I saw the transition in the women that I worked with. I worked mostly with like stay at home moms. Columbia's a army town. So it wasn't like circus performers coming to me. It was regular women that had no upper body strength, that had no flexibility, and I worked with them to gain the strength to do aerial silks and to gain the flexibility to do splits in the air. And I saw how that impacted their confidence. And it just trickled over into every single area of life. So that's what really got me into like mindset and self development and even healing, just understanding how our confidence and self worth plays a part in how we show up in a world. So unfortunately, I didn't like Colombia. I actually hated it. So, although I loved my studio, I hated where I was living, and I felt like my studio was creative, but the city itself didn't have any art, didn't have any culture, and I felt myself, and that's probably what prompted me to do the purple because it was during that time when I had my studio that I was just like I have to hold on to this artist in me, like I will not let anyone strip it. And so
Hell
eventually
yeah.
I yeah. Eventually I found that I was trying to leave town like every weekend and take trips, and it's like it shouldn't be that way, like you trying to escape from your reality. So I made the decision to sell my studio and move somewhere where I would love where I live. So I sold the studio and I moved to Florida, and I wanted to be fully remote because I wanted to travel. And so I was doing coaching at the time. I was doing online business coaching, helping people brand themselves online and start online businesses. Because when I had that studio, a lot of people asked me, like, how did you start a business? I want to start a business, but I have no idea where to start. And so I kind of went in that direction, but I realized like there's no art and creativity in that. And so I wasn't really happy with that. So I started my Abundance Hack podcast around that time, and it was all about healing and self development and becoming the best version of yourself and identifying where we have like trauma adaptations and like how we can release them to show up our best. And I talked about a lot of different healing modalities, and I would try everything that we talked about. And I spoke about sound therapy, and I started going to sound baths like once or twice a week. And I felt the layers of crap just like melting away. And I was like, what is this? I need more. And I was just so like blown away by sound baths. It took me into the deepest meditation I've ever experienced. I felt just the limiting beliefs and the insecurities and like all of this stuff, like the confusion and the lack of clarity, and like I felt it all just like melting away. And right around that time, training was coming to town, and I saw it, but I was like, I'm too busy. We're always like, I don't have time. And so one of my friends at the time was like, did you see this? You have to do it. So I felt like that was a nudge from the universe. And then I kept seeing it over and over and over. So I was like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. And at the time, I had only experienced crystal sound baths where it's the white crystal bowls, but this training actually specialized in the Himalayan bowls where the bowls are actually on the body, which was a whole other level that I hadn't even experienced at the time. And when I experienced that, I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. Because we store so many emotions in our body. And I'm sure, with breath work, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So the vibration from the bowls being on your body is dissolving the heavy emotions that we have stored in our body. I just fell completely in love. And because I already had experience owning a studio, I just launched my business right away. And here I am.
I am so excited to hear about sound therapy because, yes, all these things that you're saying get me super excited because of the work that I'm doing in the breathwork sphere. There's similar modalities I'm imagining from what I've been reading. That the thing that a lot of people, and I just thank you so much for coming on, and you're about to share with us a little bit more about how this works, because I feel like there's so many people walking around in the world that are stuck and they don't realize why they're stuck. And as all of this subconscious stuff, and that it's trapped within the body, and that we need modalities that are not up in our head in order
Hmm.
to feel that sense of release. So that said, please tell me, because I literally have very little knowledge about how sound therapy works and why it works. And I want you to tell everybody like exactly what is it, and like how does sound help you release emotions and limiting beliefs?
So, the first thing I want to bring up is when you're in a certain mood or you're feeling a certain way, there's certain songs you listen to, right? So, if you're happy, you play a upbeat song. If you're sad and in your feelings and in your emotions, you have the heartbreak songs. And so, that just by itself shows how music impacts us. So, the music, it impacts our emotions, but specifically with sound therapy, the crystal bowls produce a pure tone and the hertz. So frequency is measured by hertz. So it produces a pure tone that activates our brain waves. So very similar to music, depending upon the music we listen to, it's impacting our brain and how we feel. So when we meditate, we go into our theta brainwave. So the theta state is our flow state. It's that space between our conscious and subconscious mind. And so our limiting beliefs are stored in our subconscious. So most people cannot go straight into the theta state because we have monkey brain, we're inundated with information. Excuse me, we're inundated with information, so most people can't just go right into that state. But the frequency from the crystal bowls, it takes you into that state, allowing you to access your subconscious mind, very similar to hypnosis, where they take you into that flow state in that subconscious mind. So the sound of the bowls, it takes you into that space, allowing you to access subconscious blocks, limiting beliefs, the things that we have stored in the back of our minds that we don't even realize that this is a pattern playing out in our lives. And then it also relaxes our physical body. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest state. So very similar to breath work. And we combine breath work with sound therapy because getting people back into their body. And then what I specialize in is the somatic sound therapy, where there's a bowl on the body. So the vibration from the bowls, it's getting into your cells. So we store emotion in our physical body. And when the vibration from the bowls goes through our meridians, goes through our cells, our organs, it's dissolving the emotions trapped in those areas. So I with somatic sound therapy, I teach people where we hold specific emotions. And one area that I see spiked, we do a scan at my studio where it shows how energy is being dispersed in the body. And an area that is almost always spiked in people is the liver, but we hold trauma and grief in our liver.
Mm.
So by having a bowl on your torso, or like a little bit to the right, you can dissolve that heavy emotion in that area without going to traditional talk therapy and having to relive it and talk about it all over again. It can dissolve that emotion, and the memories may come up, but because your body is relaxed and you're in that parasympathetic nervous system, it allows you to feel safe revisiting that heavy emotion. So it's such a beautiful and gentle modality, allowing you to just dissolve all of the heaviness that we're carrying. And these days we're carrying a lot.
Wow. So correct me if I'm wrong, but as you're talking, I'm envisioning kind of just for a visual of the sound waves, like when you throw a pebble in a lake and the ripple effect of the pebble in the lake. So imagining the sound waves doing the same thing in
Yes.
circles that basically like when we use the sound therapy, we kind of shift those frequencies a little bit and just shift the way the ripples are going. Is
Mm-hmm.
that about right?
Yes, and our bodies are mostly made up of water. So I love that you use that visual because the waves, it's bringing our bodies back into harmony. So if we have a lot going on, just imagine like a big mess, but then
Yeah.
that pebble getting the wave to look very like harmonized and pretty. Even
Right.
there's a Dr. Komodo or something along those lines, and a he did research on water, and if you say positive affirmations, the water pattern versus if you speak ugly
Mm,
to the
mhm,
water and it
mhm.
looks like messy. So it's very similar to our bodies. We're storing everything, like literally the things we're listening to, the things we're watching, all of that's being stored in our subconscious and in our physical body and in our energy body.
Yeah, and when people have different types of sometimes pain in their body that's sort of inexplainable or
Hmm.
tension, we
Hmm.
hold so much in the body um, and just recently, I had some, like, really powerful, heavy information that was given to me, right? And I literally I didn't know what to do with it, and then I just kinda put it away, and I literally forgot about it, even though it was such a impactful piece of information, like, because I had something to do with the kids, and I literally, like, a week or so later, I was like, "I can't believe I forgot about this piece of information," like, and that's kinda what happens when we experience trauma, especially when we're young, like this big stuff comes up and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. So let's
Mhm.
just put it over here and I'm going to go back to play Barbies
Mhm.
because I cannot process. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that gets stuck and then over time just creates all of this complication inside the body.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah, and breathwork and sound therapy can definitely really these types of modalities, they seem really like I'm not super woo woo. You know me. I'm a little you're a lot more woo woo than me. And that said, I am getting more into the woo space because it may sound like so out there, and if you really think about the body and the electromagnetic fields that we put out with our brainwaves, and even more so our heartbeat, we put out these frequencies. We are a vibration. So then working with these vibrations really makes sense to sort of rewire the pathways that are a little tangled up, let's call it.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually don't use the term woo woo.
Tell me why.
I
Because it's
be
so stigmatized.
well, I think that it's almost there. So everything that I do is science based. I'm not a sound healer that is more, you can go the route of shamanism where they have like feathers and drums and they're talking about spirit guides and all of that. That is not my practice. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is very well, some people seek that. Everything that I do is science based. So when people say woo woo, it's almost invalidating it, but it's like this is
Mm,
backed by science. This is
right.
not me with a pendulum like, let me see where your
Let's see
chakras
what
are.
happens. Right.
So, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, I'm not taking away from that space at all. But the device that I have at my studio is a scientific device that is actually measuring the biophotons coming off your fingertips and showing how the energy is being dispersed in your body through Chinese medicine. So, it is backed by science. So, everything that I do at my studio is completely backed by science. It's not me tapping into my intuitive gifts to be like, let me see where your chakras are. And again, nothing wrong with that. But
It
there's
has its
science,
place.
yes, but there's science to prove that we are holding specific emotions in our body or
Mm,
showing where there's energetic blocks and then figuring out the patterns. So, another area that I see spiked a lot is the thyroid. And if we have something heavy weighing on our heart, it creates stuck energy in our chest because we're not dissolving the heaviness on our heart, so that energy stays stuck right here, and then
mhm.
that caused an enlarged throat chakra. But then over time, if we don't move that energy, that's going to impact our thyroids. And if we do research, a lot of women are struggling with thyroid issues, a lot. But if you think about how women are programmed to be silent and be seen and not
Mm.
heard and not speak up, and if we do speak up, we're labeled, not so nice things. So with women constantly being silent, we're keeping so much held and bottled up right here. That is contributing to the high spike in thyroid issues. And
Wow.
so it's all correlated, and there's science to back that our emotions turn into physical ailments if we don't move that energy.
I love that, and thank you for dispelling the myth of woo because what you're doing is backed by science, and I think that's important because there's a lot of people that are very, cerebral type of business people, and they want something that is factual and scientific. They're
Mhm.
not willing to buy into some theoretical thing, like you said. And when you bring factual scientific information to the table, they're more likely to give it a whirl and find incredible results.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, the more that I fall down this amazing, colorful rabbit hole of trauma and release of trauma and helping people to operate at their most optimized vibration, if you call it,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think the world is slowly waking up to the fact that there's so much more to how we show up than
Mm-hmm.
just what we had for breakfast. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just it makes perfect sense to think all of the things that I have experienced from birth to right now can affect me. And at the same time, we're always busy plodding along the journey, or, gracefully gliding along the journey if we are. But some of the stuff in our past just becomes unresolved. And I've been reading tons of books about the energy, um, like how it's blocked, how it can manifest itself in ways like you were just saying about the thyroid. Um, and I think people are becoming more open slowly to trying new things and evolving better and faster
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to live
Yeah.
happier lives, because they a lot of times, like, I'm sure you've seen, and please share with us any direct experiences you've had with literally seeing transformation in people because they just didn't even know that they had stuff that was blocked.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, I have so many stories. I have so many stories, but I want to back up a little bit. There was something you said, like we have been programmed to go, 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 hustle, grind,
Hmm.
like push forward, no matter what. But I believe that how we've been programmed is no longer sustainable. Society is in chronic burnout and it's
Yes.
impacting our mental, emotional, and physical well being. So, hustle culture, it's not sustainable anymore. We need more grounding. So, another science-based resource is the Schumann resonance. It shows how the earth is vibrating. Basically, it measures the earth's frequency. Energy is increased. We're feeling everything more every time there's a full moon, new moon. It's an energy surge, and people are feeling that, whether you're spiritual or not, whether you follow any type of energy healing or not. They're feeling it. Like, why do I feel so tired? Why do I
Hmm.
feel so
What is
exhausted?
this?
Why do I feel so emotional? So people are feeling it. And I feel like COVID was a collective healing for everyone that kind of woke
Mm.
everyone up. But it's like the people who are not seeking this information are just blindly like, I don't know what's wrong with me today, but I'm just going to keep going. But a lot of people are suffering in silence. And when I do these energy analysis at my studio, I would say 8 in 10 people are operating in burnout. Like it shows when our organs are operating overdrive, everyone's operating overdrive. So I preach all the time like grounding, grounding, grounding. We need more grounding. We need more breath work, like taking deep breaths. I tell people because grounding requires you to go out into nature, go stand by a tree, put your feet in the grass, put your feet in the sand, go get in the ocean, take a Epsom salt bath. And some people are like, I don't have time. So my next recommendation is breathe, take some deep breaths.
Mhm.
Even if you can't do anything, if you're driving to work, you can take some deep breaths at a red light. Take some deep breaths because our bodies are in overdrive. Like we
Yeah.
are burnt out as a society and it's impacting us. And that's why there's so many autoimmune diseases and cancers and fertility issues. Like we're going to run ourselves into the ground if we don't take better care of ourselves. So hustle culture and the hustle grind, go, 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 it's not sustainable anymore.
No, it's definitely not. And I can go on for hours about all that stuff. But really, for reference point for people that don't know a lot about it, if you think about the prehistoric brain that we have, that was, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight nervous system was developed in us to protect us from
Mm-hmm.
harm. Like, here comes the dinosaur, run as fast as you can. That same brain that's 500 million years old still activates. It'll activate if your internet goes out. It'll activate if you get a call from your kid's school that something's going on. It'll activate when you see the news and something distressing is there, which is one great reason not to watch the news.
Mm-hmm.
It'll activate so many in so many ways with so many stimulants that we have in the environment right now, and layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. And just even talking about that probably creates anxiety in someone listening. The parasympathetic nervous system that Niajae is talking about is that calm, rest, and digest. And we're always, every time we breathe in, we are activating sympathetic. Every time we breathe out, we're activating parasympathetic, and you're kind of floating in that space. And a lot of people are in that sympathetic space way too much of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like what we all need, unless you are completely out there living off the land with no internet service and living a beautiful life like that sounds like, there's a lot of stimulants that can put you into that fight or flight without you even feeling stressed.
Mm-hmm.
There's environmental stressors or old baggage of how you show up. And
Mm-hmm.
so what it sounds like is the sound therapy, pardon the pun, it it's one of those modalities that'll help you find that place of calm and serenity that we all need so much of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the perfect way to explain it. It's the same benefits of breath work as sound therapy. When our body uses all of our energy to guard ourselves from threat, and if you think about where we are right now as a society, like a lot of people fear like another quarantine, another lockdown. The economy is insane, and just all of the things going on in the world. We're on guard from threat, and so that's why so many people are having a hard time sleeping, having a hard
Mhm.
time digesting. There's a lot of gut issues because when we're in that sympathetic nervous system, when we're in fight flight freeze or fawn, we are not using our energy to rest and digest. We're on guard, like from attack, like we're preparing for attack. And what sound therapy does is it tells your nervous system you are safe, you are safe. So you can use that energy to rest. You can use that energy to digest and like repair. So the rest state is really just your body repairing itself. Like when you're in the parasympathetic like nervous system, you are repairing, your body's doing the things it needs to do to repair. And if we are constantly in fight, flight, or freeze, our body's not using that energy to repair or digest. And so when people come to my studio, they fill out an intake form and I ask about digestive problems. Almost everyone has digestive problems because they're not in that rest and digest state enough. And so
Mhm.
that's what we want. We want to be in our parasympathetic nervous system as much as possible. And if you can't go to a sound bath, do some breath work.
Right.
That's pretty
So,
much it.
yeah, and it's literally getting into I keep using this phrase with people because since I've gotten into the breathwork space, my world feels like it's turned from black and white to color, literally. Like,
I love
because
that.
the way that I see the world, and I see people as not like, oh my gosh, that person is super whack, but more like, what happened to this person?
Mhm.
What happened to them? What is happening within them right now? What is it that's causing them to show up this way?
Mm.
And it's a great way for us all to look at the people around us, that everyone, we hear it all the time. Everyone's got a story, everyone's got a battle they're fighting, be kind and all these things. But a reference point to that is what happened to this person to make them show up this way, whether it be someone standing in line behind you at the grocery store that has obviously stress and anxiety and they're in a rush.
Mhm.
Like, what is all of that? And so talk to us now a little bit about how does it really work with, I guess, what would a session look like with you, and explain, how would you place the bowls on the body? Because that's something I'm not even familiar with at all. I know that I've seen the pretty like white bowls
Mhm.
that are one modality. So you can talk about both, but just explain what people would experience when they're doing a sound bath with you.
Yeah. So most people are familiar with it at the end of a yoga class, like when they're lying in Shavasana. At the very end, they lie down, and sometimes yoga practitioner or yoga instructors will have bowls that they play at the end of yoga. So some people are familiar with the crystal bowls from that. So it's very similar to a yoga session, but just the shavasana part, just the meditative end of it. So when you come into the studio, we already have the mat set up for you. You basically lie down, get under a blanket, get really cozy, and you rest. It's so adorable. I have a testimonial from an 11-year-old. Children love sound therapy as well, but he's like, if you want to take a nap, come do a sound bath. It was so cute, but it's basically like an adult nap. So just a moment to pause and relax. You don't have to do anything. So you come in for a session's an hour. So I have three different types of sessions. So we have the crystal sound bath, which is the most popular, and it's the white bowls, like you mentioned. Those are the crystal sound bowls, and you basically lie there for the hour and listen to the sounds. But it relaxes your body and it takes you into a deep meditative state. So sometimes people will fall asleep. Totally fine. It still works its magic. Sometimes people will reflect on the things that's kind of bothering them. I think there's a misconception that with meditation, you're supposed to clear your mind. But I actually think that's step three. Step
Mm,
one is paying attention to what's going on in your mind. Step two is ask yourself, is this serving me? What am I meant to learn here? And if it's not serving you, letting it go. Or is this in my control? Is this something that I can take action on? If not, letting it go. And then step three is clearing your mind. So I don't expect people to come in and clear their mind and stay still. It's like, pay attention to your body, connect to your body. What are the sensations going on in your body? How do you feel mentally, physically, emotionally? Like, what are you holding on to? Like, how do your shoulders feel? How does your neck feel? Is your jaw clenched? So it's really connecting them back to their body. And I do have specialized sessions where some focus on inner child healing, some focus on abundance, some are just general relaxation. So that's the crystal sound bath. And then we do a somatic sound bath where they have one bowl on the body. So, same concept, they lie down, and I'll put one of the Himalayan bowls. So those are the golden ones, like the brass ones, and I'll put one like either on their chest or their belly. So belly is solar plexus and sacral chakra, chest is heart chakra. Sometimes I ask people which they would prefer, and they always have something that they're intending with that specific session, and I'll go around and activate the bowls on them, and that vibration is dissolving the heaviness, dissolving the anxiety. A lot of people that have anxiety, they have shortness of breath, they have panic attacks, they have tight chest. So that vibration is dissolving all of the energy that's stored in their chest, allowing it to dissolve and melt away. And every time people say they can breathe deeper, because when we're stressed, we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we're holding our breath and we're tense up here. You can see a person that's stressed, their shoulders are up here or hunched, and having that vibration on their chest allows them to relax and like open up. Try not to flash anyone here. And really open up here and dissolve some of that tension that they're holding in their shoulders and holding in their chest. And when people start to curl their shoulders, it's a protection mechanism because they're guarding their heart, because there's so much pain on their heart. So dissolving that pain to allow them to like open up, and that's the somatic sound bath. And then I do somatic privates where they're on a massage table. So very similar to a massage, but rather than me touching them with my hands, it's all bowls. So they have bowls on their arms, their legs, and it's a full body somatic session. So we hold emotion in every single area of our body. An area that is really huge that I don't think people would think about is our knees and our ankles. We hold emotion in our knees and ankles. If you think about walking, our knees and ankles are our mobility. If we have knee problem and we can't walk, we can't move forward in
mm.
life. So we hold a lot of fear in our knees.
Oh my gosh, that just blew my mind because my knees There's a lot going on in my life personally right now, and my knees, it's not pain, it just feels like weird, and it goes
Mm-hmm.
back and forth and moves around, and that just like was some interesting information. Okay, continue. Because I have some other stuff I want us to go back to, but I want you to keep going.
Yeah, so when we have like a achiness or tension in our knees, that's stored energy in
Mm.
the knee. And so having a bowl on that area dissolves that tension in that area, allowing us to feel lighter to move forward in life. And it's not a quick fix, I will say, not a quick fix. If we have years and decades of programming and trauma stored up, it's not going to be solved in one session. But as I explained, when I started going, I felt the layers peeling back. So each session is going to peel back a layer and peel back a layer and peel back a layer. And sometimes when we have trauma, kind of how you explained, we're just going to store this back here. Like, I don't have the capacity right now to look at this. When our nervous system feels safe, it can revisit some of those things that we've stored in the back of the closet or swept under the rug, but we don't want to look at it if we're already on edge. So it
Mm.
allows your nervous system to feel safe, like, okay, I feel safe to look at this thing. And if we don't look at, because some people are like, I don't want to look at any of my trauma, like that's in my past, but it plays out in our future, it plays out in our present. And if we keep repeating the same pattern, like, why does this keep happening to me? It's because it's something repeating that you haven't looked at. So being willing to look at it when you're ready, when your nervous system is ready. And that's what sound therapy helps with. It helps repair your nervous system so you have the capacity to look at the patterns and look at the subconscious blocks and limiting beliefs.
Ooh, that was a lot of amazing stuff. I'm going to try to remember the questions that I had coming back. Number one, I think that what Niajae began with, how she begins her sessions with people, is an important trifecta, if you will, of meditation in general, because I think a lot of times people have an aversion to meditation because they're like, I can't quiet my mind. I just can't shut it up. And what it sounds like Niajae is suggesting is don't try to shut it up. First, notice
Mm-hmm.
what you're feeling because your body will tell you always what's really going on. It's just hard to listen. So take time to listen. And then again, as to reiterate what she said, that to figure out, is this serving me? And then move into a place of letting go and trying to quiet things. So I thought that was really great advice that you would be reminded of at a sound bath session, and yet you can use it in all things. Question that I have about the sound therapy is the bowls. Is does each bowl have its own tone specifically? And then how do you decide which one to use?
That's such a great question. So each bowl does have its own tone. So the Himalayan bowls are actually hand hammered. So they're not a pure tone like the crystal bowl. So the crystal bowls are associated with a chakra. We have seven main chakras. And then with the crystal bowls, depending upon the size, it can be high octave, low octave, not to get into music theory, but the crystal bowls are pure tones. So no matter how you play it, no matter how loud, how soft, it's always going to be the same tone, which is very beautiful. So I consider that like a this is how I break it down in my certification. I consider the Himalayan bowls like a multivitamin. It's not a pure tone. So, depending upon the mallet that you use, depending upon how you play it, the body's going to take what it needs and discard the rest. So, a multivitamin, the body takes what it needs, discard the rest. And that's how I see the Himalayan bowl. So, it doesn't really matter which bowl you have on the body because our bodies are so intelligent. It's going to take the vibration that it specifically needs to bring it back into harmony and then just discard the rest. And then with the crystal bowls, I feel like the crystal bowls are more specific. So if you need like an iron pill, if you need a B vitamin, it's more specific because it's a pure tone. So we have seven main chakras, and again, it's still going to bring everything into balance because where my chakras are very different from where your chakras are. So typically in a sound bath, we're playing all seven, and it's going to get everything moving in harmony because of that pure tone.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So Honestly, I'm gonna have to do some research because I don't believe anybody in my area practices this. Maybe somebody does, but not that I've heard of, which is a good reason to again look. I have it on my back burner list of your certification for sound therapy. So I'll be
Mm.
interested if the listeners would
Yes, it would go
like
so
to have
well.
sound therapy out of me. Being a musician and a singer and everything, like music really has pulled me back in, and that's one thing that I love
Mhm.
about what I do in breath work is that it is a musical journey as well. So would you say that having does someone to be a practitioner like yourself need some kind of musical training, or is it more based on what the client needs in that moment and your intuition with where to place or what have you?
So I would definitely say that people that are into healing that have a music background are drawn to sound because I used to sing and
Mhm.
our dance studios and everything, so like we're drawn to that. So I think you would be amazing at it. But to answer your question, no, you don't need any type of musical background. But I will say that you can always tell when someone has training versus they haven't, and specifically a certification. So I teach in my training to understand harmonies, to understand which bowls sound better together. And for practitioners that haven't gone through a training or a training as thorough as mine, it can sound a little chaotic if you know music. So a regular person who doesn't have a music background may be like, "Oh, this is great." But me, because I have a little bit of music background, I'm like, because the harmony, but our bodies, even if you don't know music theory, our bodies knows when something feels chaotic or when
Yeah.
it harmonizes. And so a sound bath where they're playing harmonies is going to allow the person to relax faster because their
Mm.
body is like, "Ooh, that harmony is yummy."
Yeah, there's something really emotional about music and sound that is uh, inexplicable in some ways, but also just so intuitive
Mm.
that I just was listening to, I'm like a voracious book person lately, and I fell down the rabbit hole of the music of John Williams, who he did like Star Wars and Superman and E.T. and Jurassic Park and all the Harry Potter stuff, and how he so masterfully uses music to evoke
Mhm.
certain emotions at certain times in combination with the visuals and everything. So I think everybody, like you started with in the beginning of this podcast, that everyone can relate to playing a certain song when they're looking for a certain feeling. And so I think this is a really cool way to play into it. Um, and now I'm all excited. I've got to get a certification, and I've got to not do too many things at once. But
Yes.
so let's see. Talk to me about the most like the coolest experience you've had in sound therapy, like something really memorable, a moment that you or one of your clients had that was a result of sound therapy.
Oh man. Oh,
I'm sure you have so many, but
so many. I
pick one.
mean, like people going into meditations and seeing a deceased loved one, and people who have completely lost themselves and got a vision. Actually, I'm going to share the most recent one. Yesterday I did a sound bath, and the it was her first time, never experienced a sound bath. It was a private session, and she said she felt like she shared this after. She felt like she lost herself the last few years, which I think so many of us because of
Mhm.
as a result of COVID has. And she had a visual, so it basically takes you into a different dimension. Like if you've never been into a deep meditative state, you feel like, I don't know where I was because it's a different level of consciousness that you're accessing. And she had a visual of her, like a smaller, like a different version of her climbing out of her throat. But she said she felt
Mm,
like she had completely lost herself and became silent. Very similar. I see this a lot in women,
mm,
especially these days. And she's just like, I feel lighter and I'm smiling and I don't even know why I'm smiling. And she's just like, I feel like a whole new me. And this is one sound bath. I mean, I've had so many good stories, but that's like the most recent one. But that visual is so powerful where there's parts of us that become lost and fragmented and just completely broken off. And to rediscover who you are and connect back with your body and your voice and your power, that's powerful.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. And I will just put a little caveat out there for our listeners that modalities like breath work, or it sounds like sound therapy, it's not necessarily that you have to go back and relive this trauma. You don't have to relive it. You may approach that sensation of those memories and move through it. It's
Mhm.
just more like a release, because I've had people kind of have a little pushback about these types of modalities because, like you mentioned earlier, Niajae, that they don't want to relive those hard things. And
Yeah.
and what we're saying is that you don't have to relive it. You do have to move through these things and integrate these moments in your existence into your current life, because again it shows up over and over again as these repeating patterns that a lot of other people can see but we can't always see in ourselves, because like a lot of trigger response, that word, oh, that triggered me. The trigger is not to what's happening in the moment. The trigger is a response to what happened the first
Mhm.
time that caused this trauma to be locked in your body, and it just keeps showing up every
Mhm.
time that something similar comes up for you. And when you move through these modalities, then you can finally release it. And like you just said, that client, it she didn't really know why, she just felt like she had released something. And
Mhm.
that feeling, I know that feeling, and it's an incredible feeling of lightness and awareness, and it improves your relationship with yourself and your
Mhm.
relationship with others, which in
Mhm.
turn can improve your work life and increase your bottom line and all those things.
Yeah. And sound therapy does it in a gentle way, so your nervous
Mm,
system isn't going to bring anything up that you're not ready to look at. Now, I do
mm,
know breath work, there's so many different types of breath work,
mhm,
and there's some really intense breath work like holotropic breath work
mhm.
where it's drumming up that, and you do have sound baths that are similar. Like I mentioned shamanism where they come in with the drums, so it's not going to be as like pretty and soothing and harmonic. It's going to drum up some stuff like
Fight the
literally.
fight.
Yeah. And so that I personally believe because we're in burnout, we need more soothing. We need
Mm,
more soothing to our nervous system rather than more fight or flight where we're
yeah.
muscling through it. That's such a like hard masculine way to do it. There's a
Mhm.
gentle way to do it. There's gentle breath work that's slowing down your breath and like deeper breaths, deeper like longer exhales. Like that's soothing to your nervous system rather than the fast paced like
Yeah.
hyperventilating. We need more soothing. And so when you have the soothing, it sends that message to your nervous system, you're safe. And so when something heavy comes up, it doesn't come up in a threatening way. It's like, oh, I noticed this thing, this pain in my side, and then a memory came up, and then it just like gently dissolves away. And even when people like
Mm.
cry, I have a lot of people cry in sessions, but it's such a release, like it feels good. It's very cathartic versus like crying in like a.
That hyperventilating kinda cry.
Yeah, so it's different. It's like like a breath of fresh air. No pun intended. Look at our
Literally.
puns today. But it's like a
It's definitely
soothing like,
the
"Oh, give me a."
soothing thing is really important, and what comes up for me when you use that word is when there's behaviors that, especially addictive behaviors, where people are seeking that soothing, like soothing ourselves with food, soothing
Mhm.
ourselves with a little bit more alcohol in the evenings than we planned on, let's call it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Soothing ourselves with mindless TV. We're all seeking that soothing, that
Mhm.
mother's warm hug, right?
Mhm.
I read a book recently about addiction from Gabor Mate, and he talked about how heroin addicts a lot of time talk about that drug giving them that warm, soothing feeling,
Mhm.
almost maternal, that they're looking for. So what it sounds like keeps the sounds like sound therapy is I'm not purposely saying that, but I'm like trying to make sure that I'm getting the point across properly, that this is a modality that you can help find the soothing that you really desire in a healthy way that's not destructive in the ways that we think we're soothing ourselves by mindlessly consuming whatever it
Yeah.
is, and it's never really filling that void
Mhm.
of feeling safe.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
this is definitely something people should look into in their area. And so do you offer online sessions? Does that even work with sound therapy?
So there's a lot of online sound baths. I would say you're getting about 40% of the healing benefit versus doing it in person where you're
Sure.
going to receive 100%. But something's better than nothing. So you can listen to binaural beats. There's binaural beats you can listen to throughout the night. It's like 8 hours, black screen. That's going to do something. So something's better than nothing. If you're having
Mm,
problems sleeping, looking up like a root chakra or a sleep meditation, a sleep binaural beat, a lot of that's computer generated. And what I do is playing it live, so there's like intention behind it, and you feel the actual waves and you feel the vibrations in person. But
mhm,
again, something is better than nothing. So you can definitely do it online. I prefer to work with people in person because when you come into the studio, I have a lot of crystals, I have aromatherapy, I have really fluffy blankets, and people always, the first thing they do is compliment the blankets, like, oh, this is so soft, but it helps with that soothing process. That mother embrace that you mentioned, like having a soft fluffy blanket where you can just like get cozy, it allows your nervous system to relax and say you are safe. And that's what we're desperately seeking. And when we consume, it's kind of like a band-aid, a quick fix that we're just trying to like patch it up, but we're not really getting to the root of it. And so sound therapy helps get to the root of it and like release the emotion and fill that void that we're seeking. Or
mm,
I will say there's certain things like grief, for example. So a lot of people say time heals all wounds. I don't believe that. Time doesn't heal all wounds. So grief is a wound that it's always going to be there, but building the emotional resilience to navigate that grief where it doesn't feel like it's going to cripple you, it's not going to like kill you. So you build that emotional resilience. And I heard a really beautiful quote, like grief is like a hole that's never filled, but new flowers grow around it. And
mm,
so that visual again is very soothing, like, okay, I'm always going to miss this person that I loved, but I'm strong enough to navigate and integrate that pain in my life. It's not going to break me. And so many people feel broken. So one of the things that I always remind my clients is you are not broken. You are not broken. So helping them build that emotional resilience, like life is hard, but you can do hard things.
mm.
Mhm.
Just hearing you talk about the soft blankets makes me want to get in my car and drive to Tampa right now. Because it's so true. And really, as you were talking about that, if you really think about it, and this is something that blew my mind when I first heard about it, is we experience our very first trauma at birth
Mhm.
when we're like in that cuddly, like soft, warm space inside the mother's
Mhm.
womb, and where everything is provided for and we are protected, and we're like shot out of the cannon into the world. And
Mhm.
so immediately, I think it makes so much sense that we're always seeking that which we began with, which is that soothing feeling of
Mhm.
safety. And again, circling back to what we talked about earlier of being so activated and hit on every from the moment you wake up and your phone starts dinging to
Mhm.
moving throughout your day and interacting with other people's energy and layer upon layer of pressure. It makes so much sense that we're just seeking a feeling of safety. And I can even think of just moments during the day where the feeling of lack of safety is almost always in our mind more than actual physical danger. It's
Mhm.
just feeling like everything is so much.
Mhm.
And to just find that place of slowing down, it sounds like and looks like from the beautiful photos on your website that your space is probably a wonderful place to land and find some solace and start to feel because some people don't even know how that feels at all. So if they
Mhm.
come and work with you, and I can definitely see after my question about online that just but being in a space with the physical, I mean, the presence of this actual sound waves. It's kind of
Mhm.
like the difference between watching a concert on TV and being at a concert, right? It's
Yes.
totally the same sound concept. So um, I think that we all need to find a way to feel how that feels good and that it exists. And sometimes you just need an experience like something with a Niajae to go, oh gosh, this is good. Let's do
Mhm.
some more of that. And to
Mhm.
find ways throughout the day, whether it is with a breathing practice or finding sound therapy. And now you mentioned one more thing that before we wrap up, that can you teach an individual to do that sound therapy on themselves?
Mhm. Yes, I actually have a course that I launched, but I'm switching it over to an app to make it more accessible. But I have a course that teaches how to use the Himalayan bowls in the privacy of their own home. And I personally believe that everyone should have at least one Himalayan bowl at home because we're so inundated with information, because life is so demanding, because we are navigating so much. Another thing that the Himalayan bowls helps with is getting our cells moving. And because we're around so much technology, there's Wi Fi everywhere. The EMF that we're taking in is actually slowing our cells down. So it's a good practice to play the bowl on yourself every I play my bowl on myself every single day. My practitioner, same thing. They have a bowl at home that they play on themselves. One,
Mm,
it reduces stress and anxiety holistically, so that, I mean, if you had a stressful day, 5 minutes when you come home, playing the bowl on your chest, it's going to soothe that anxiety. It's going to soothe that stress, but also it's going to get your cells moving. And even playing it on your belly, if you have digestive issues, it's a way to where you're helping your body repair without medication or numbing in some other way. And I play my bowl right before I go to sleep. And usually after like not even 10 activations, I'm like dozing off and then I just like scoot it to the side. So it helps me sleep. I get a better sleep. And so I teach people how to use it on themselves, basically before bed, but also if you're dealing with something specific. So, how you shared that your knees have been a little achy. So, I show you how to play it on your knees and then including journal prompts to sit with like, okay, what's coming up? What am I afraid of here? Because we're programmed to just suppress and stuff down. So really connecting with like, what is my body communicating to me that I need to pay attention to? Because that's what pain really is. It's communicating that your body needs something that you're not really paying attention to, or emotionally you need something, like maybe your inner child is afraid of a decision, or there's always something. So teaching people how to identify what's going on in their body and then using the bowls to soothe whatever heavy emotion they're navigating.
mm. And wouldn't that be a game changer for so many people out there that just don't
Mhm.
realize that like you mentioned, you don't necessarily have to take a pharmaceutical to help yourself feel better. There's options out there to explore and learn about and implement and experiment with and things that literally resonate more than others. Um, this this podcast is full of fun little puns. And that there's different, it's different for everybody. That's one beautiful thing about all these new modalities, that every person's different. Like Niajae mentioned, everybody's chakras are in a different place for whatever reason, for
Mhm.
your physiology, your ancestral heritage that's been brought down, past ancestral trauma, your family makeup, the current stressors, all of these things are really great reasons to look into this. Any specific workshops or trainings that are coming up that we might mention? And then also let us know how we can find you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm all over social media. As far as workshops, I do a certification. So if you're interested in becoming a practitioner, we need more practitioners. This modality is so gentle, it's so beautiful, it's so transformational, and it will help improve mental, emotional, and physical well-being naturally. So no medication. It's such a beautiful, gentle modality. So I do trainings in Tampa once a month, and the program where I'm teaching how to play bowls on the body, that is online. You can find all of that information through my website. So my company that I teach the certification through is Sound Therapy Network. So soundtherapynetwork.com is where you can find that information. It's also a podcast. So if you're like, okay, this piqued my interest, but I want to learn a little bit more, I teach about it on the podcast. So Sound Therapy Network podcast is on all podcast platforms. And I'm all over social media. So Niajae, Niajae, that's my main website. I have a I have a lot of links. I'm going to send you all the links. So if you
Yep.
want to follow me, I'm all about empowering people. So if you need some inspiration, you can follow like my personal page. But if you want to learn more about sound therapy, soundtherapynetwork.com. It's also on Instagram. It's at Sound Therapy Network. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah,
And if you
Facebook
just
as well.
go to niaje.com, there's a bunch of links to get you
Hmm.
started.
Yeah.
And then you can find, she's very prominent and beautiful to behold, and
Thank
always
you.
inspirational, and just really great messaging to follow. As well as there's a link on her website to her other podcast, Abundance Hack Podcast,
Yes.
that's there. So there's just so much that you are giving to the world, and I appreciate so much you being here today. Much success to the Bliss Meditation Studio, and
Thank you.
much bliss and joy to your clients and the people that come in contact with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great catching up. I absolutely love everything that you're doing.